Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Andrew Neil has done a bit of a hit piece on Nicola Sturgeon, and it's actually quite funny. Some of the descriptions he uses are bang on brand, you must say. We will take a look at it and what he's saying. He wrote it for one paper, but it's actually going through and doing all the papers now. They're all sharing what he's saying. And it is just his usual flair with words. He is quite a wordsmith when he gets going. And so we're going to have a look at this. But he's describing her as a pound shop Marie-Antoinette and making the various comparisons with her. And we will discuss these as we go through. But there is, of course, the matter, and you'll see from the first image when we throw it up, undoubtedly they're going to make the allusion to let them eat cake. But I will clarify that in the piece, because she never ever said it. But, you know, you can't help yourself. But we will go in and have a look at it and see what Andrew Neil is doing to, basically, with words, eviscerate Nicola Sturgeon. Here goes. Nicola Sturgeon branded a pound shop Marie-Antoinette after the £14 million credit card scandal. Broadcaster Andrew Neil told the former SNP leader the union would not be broken in her lifetime, as the lavish spending staff was compared to the court of the infamous French Queen, who wanted her subjects to eat cake. No, she never did. It was, as I say, Madame Therese, Marie-Therese, 100 years earlier. But you have to have the picture, and there's, of course, is Nippy trying to shove a cake down her hole, and failing miserably. Anyway, and she has to have a Scottish cake. No, they can't just have a normal cake. Got to have a little saltire on the top. What a tit. Anyway, Nicola Sturgeon is being branded a pound shop Marie-Antoinette for the credit card scandal that has rocked Scottish politics. Do you know Marie-Antoinette was introduced to her husband when she was 7, was married to him at 14, but the wedding wasn't consummated until she was over 21 years of age. Weird. And even then it took her brother to go along to the king and explain how to do it. I kid you not. He had no idea. And the brother had to explain what sex was and how he should do it with Marie-Antoinette before someone else did. And apparently someone else already had been. Anyway, the pair spent money on lavish luxuries, while the aloofness and misunderstanding of her own subjects is summed up in the famous line attributed to them, "Let them eat cake," which she never said. But what happened was the French called her Madame Deficit, because they were starving. They were quite literally starving in the fields. They didn't have any food. She would be hosting most magnificent parties and eating well and all this, and was doing it. And then she was absolutely hated by the French. And indeed, it is speculated it was Marie-Antoinette that actually caused the revolution. Even though she never said, "Let me eat cake," but because of her lavishness. And she built huge villages, sort of beautiful villages in the French countryside. But no one was allowed to live there. And there was all these beautiful villages, and they were all scenic and things. And then when they said they were going to their village for the weekend, they had to get all the courtiers to dress as peasants. And then they'd borrow cows and things and bring the cows in, and the ducks on the pond and all this sort of thing. And then she would pretend to be a milkmaid, because she lived in a world quite removed from normal people. And at this point I'm talking about Marie-Antoinette, not Nicola Sturgeon, although you can see the resemblance. Anyway, since standing down in February, she has seen the party she moulded in her image dragged through the mud, with a police investigation into the finances and numerous policy failures. In fact, every single policy has failed. They've got nothing through from their agenda. The Nationalist government is also facing a costly court case relating to gender reform after Miss Sturgeon hammered it through Holyrood last year. Writing in the Daily Mail, Neil said, "The speed with which Scotland's pound shop Marie-Antoinette has fallen to earth is remarkable." Miss Sturgeon was arrested as part of the Operation Branchform. Her house was raided by cops, and her chosen successor Humza Yousaf has lurched from crisis to crisis at Holyrood. And just this week it emerged civil servants working for her government racked up a £14 million credit card bill with a taxpayer paying for items like a pregnancy test, nail polish, Play-Doh, and copies of books on how to run a government. You couldn't make it up. Miss Sturgeon herself was treated to VIP lounges at airports, while copies of her book containing her speeches were also charged to the public purse. Paisley-born Neil, here he is, picture of him, had very little sympathy when evaluating the scandal. And I actually quite like Andrew Neil. I know he can be a bit pompous sometimes, but he's often bang on, and he is sort of... he tends to be right more often than he's wrong, by a long mark, as it said. Anyway, he said public libraries were closed, swimming pools shut, potholes left unfulfilled. Yeah, potholes desired. Left unfilled. But the Scottish Government always had money for expensive stays at the Glen Eagles Hotel and a £115 coffee machine for the First Minister's office. And £100 to keep it stocked with coffee. Plus everything you can think of, from sunscreen to black pudding. I kid you not. They did. They bought black pudding on it. You wonder why. Neil also predicted the SNP would lose around half of its seats at the next general election. I think everyone knows that they are more or less finished now. And rubbished Humza Yousaf's claim that a minority Labour government would be good for the Nats. No. What's good for Scotland is for the Nats to effectively disappear. But there's nothing good for the Nats now. He also reckons the scandals have put paid to any chance Miss Sturgeon had of bagging a lucrative job with the UN. She's finished. She has got nowhere, literally nowhere to go. Said, and on the SNP's hopes of breaking up the union, he writes, alongside Sturgeon's fall from grace came a decline in the fortunes of the SNP. Despite some brave and nonsensical talk, lunacy in fact really, the party's hope of gaining independence has been shattered. Indeed, it is further away from getting independence now than I think at any time in maybe the last 100 years. The party's 100 years old nearly. And in 100 years, this is the furthest it's ever been from independence, because everything about the party is seen as a failure and no one trusts them. I mean, even their own supporters, they cannot even get, 55% of their own supporters don't want full independence because they don't trust the SNP. Bad, isn't it? Anyway, he went on. The union is safer than it has been for many decades. It will not split asunder in my lifetime, and probably not in Sturgeon's either. Mr Yousaf has ordered a review into spending by civil servants, but other Nats have fumed about the prominence given to the story, claiming the media should have ignored it. And that is my next video. We're going to have a look at that, because Keith Brown, this is a little heads up for the next video, Keith Brown is saying that it's anti-nationalist elements in the media, and how dare they report the truth and the facts. This is literally what he's saying, but we'll see that in the next video. Anyway, I shall finish there and come up, but it is right. She is the sort that she'll buy these lavish things while the people starve. She does not exist in the real world. She lives in a world of her own making, and she's a rather obnoxious figure. She can't even eat a cake like a normal person. What a... I loathe this woman. Anyway, I'll round it off and coming up. So there we go. A little brief description, I think, from Andrew Neil. And that, I think that comparison with Marie-Antoinette is actually fair. Although they did have different upbringings, of course. Nippy was just the corner girl, whereas Marie-Antoinette was the daughter of Francis I, the Holy Roman Emperor. She was the 15th and final child. I know that. All this is coming from, I tell you what, all this is coming from years ago watching Blue Peter, and they did like a little documentary thing within the programme about Marie-Antoinette. I think they were doing a journey and they were in France or something at Versailles. They started talking about her, all those years later. Amazing what sticks, isn't it? But I happen to know, yeah, she was the daughter of the Holy Roman Emperor. So, yeah, she came from power, unlike Nippy, who stole it. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you're seeing here on the channel and you're interested in history, do please hit the subscribe button. I'm kidding, I don't do a lot of history, but some things just stick, don't they? God, I'm 56. I must have watched that when I was about 9. How the hell have I managed to remember that all those years later? I even remember it was Peter Purvis. Wow. Anyway, till next time, stay safe, stay well, and let's all just forget about Marie-Antoinette. I'm going to make it an image of never bringing Marie-Antoinette up again. Bye. Not many people know that she wasn't French. She was Austrian. Bye.